Pleased to be joined by the voice of the Clemson Tigers. One of our favorite guests, Don Munson, joins us. We always love chatting with John about the Clemson Tigers. Don, about the Clemson Tigers. Don, how are you today?
I'm good, and yes, it's way too cold in the South. You can take this stuff back.
Yeah, right. All right, let's talk about this team, because the Clemson Tigers are not cold at all. They are red hot. They've got one loss here in league play, 7-1 in the ACC. Paulie and I were talking about at the top of the show that clearly Duke is the best team in this conference. Is Clemson next in line? I mean, Louisville's right there, Wake is right there. Do you think Clemson is the second best team in this conference right now?
I think you can make an argument for that. I mean, I'm not going to say that one way or another because, obviously we played Louisville and lost by 10 points at their place. So, if you're just going head to head, then you got to give Louisville the edge. We have not seen Duke yet. We'll see them on the 8th of February. We have them in North Carolina back to back, as a matter of fact, in about a 3-day period, I guess, on the 8th and the 10th. So, but that'll be at our place. So then that will be the only time that we play Duke. So we'll find out a little bit about it and go from there. But I think you have an argument that yes, you could say that Clemson's the second best team.
Obviously you had some key departures last year, the likes of P.J. Hall and everybody's favorite player around here, Joe Girard. But you've got Ian Shefflin is back and Chase Hunter and a nice nucleus with which to work, and those guys have been every bit as good as advertised this season, stepping up into those larger roles. Hunter leads the conference at 3-point shooting accuracy, Shefflin second in rebounding. I guess talk about those two guys in particular, just right off the bat, about those are the two stars, and they've performed very well so far this season.
Hey, you know what? The strange thing about those two guys, particularly in today's day and age, both of those guys have always been Clemson Tigers, and they were developmental players that have come into this program. You go back just 4 years ago, and if you were going to tell people, oh, hey, Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin both have chance to be first-team All-ACC guys, and maybe, stretching it a little bit, but maybe even an All-American status, and people, you're nuts. You're absolutely crazy. But that's the advantage of being patient with players, letting them develop, working hard with them so they do develop their games, and they both have just been. They've been great. I mean, just Chase here as of late in particular has just been outstanding. Ian's been hurt. Ian's playing hurt. He's playing with back spasms, and he's also got a bit of a calf problem that's hindering him right now. But even through all of that, he just goes out there and he just gives you what you want. And as Brad right now calls it, Clemson grit, and he's certainly playing with it.
How about Jaden Zachary? He came up big in this game against Pittsburgh, where Clemson had the big lead at halftime, and Pittsburgh made a mad rally in the second half, forced overtime, and then Clemson gets it done in OT. Jaden Zachary, 16 points, in that win. Speak to his addition, if you could, and kind of what he brings to the table for this team.
Yeah, as good as Girard was last year, as complimenting the Clemson guards and particularly complimenting Chase, Jaden's been even better. I mean, he really has. Jaden has been, you can make an argument that he's been the glue that's held all of this stuff together, as a matter of fact. Just a tremendous addition for Clemson. And he's brought a different defensive presence to this ball club that we haven't seen around here in quite a while. I mean, you maybe have to go back to a guy, if Syracuse fans remember, a guy named K.J. McDaniels, who was the defensive player of the year in the league his last year here at Clemson. That's how far you would have to go back. But no, Jaden's been the perfect fit, just an absolute perfect fit for Clemson.
You look at their resume to this point, and Clemson has 4 losses. 2 of them were in overtime. One was really early in the year at Boise State. You mentioned the 10-point loss to Louisville. What is the expectation from a postseason perspective right now? Because it's not a matter of if they're going to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, what do you think is the ceiling in terms of a seed for this team with what they've got left, and a lot of winnable games left on the schedule? I mean, what is, I guess, the goal from a seeding perspective?
Well, you remember now, Clemson basketball fans, it wasn't that long ago that Clemson got off to a 10-1 start inside the league, finished at 14-6, and didn't make the NCAA tournament.
Sure.
All right, so you got to remember that's what this program has had to live with. So expectations are right now are I think that everybody sees what this team can be, but Clemson basketball fans, all right, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when it actually gets here. That's why tonight's important. I mean, tonight is important for Clemson. They need to hold serve. They need to continue to be able to separate themselves from the mid portion of the pack and the bottom of the pack in the league, and then keep track with, Wake Forest. People, I think, are forgetting Wake Forest. Wake Forest, after that win last night, they still only have one league loss that's on their resume, and obviously Louisville, they're also 7-1, so and all trailing, right now, but they're staying within striking distance of Duke. So anything is going to be possible, I think, as we finish this out. But that's why tonight's game for Clemson is big. Clemson needs to defend home court and win this thing tonight.
As you look at this Syracuse team and get ready for this broadcast tonight, what stands out to you about the Orange? Obviously, it's been an inconsistent season, up and down season. They've dealt with injuries. What stands out to you about the team that you're going to see on the floor tonight?
Yeah, and I think that the injury thing has been probably the key component to all this, because I don't know that we really know at this point in time what Syracuse has. And there's still some injuries. I mean, I guess there's still some question marks about, who's going to play tonight, who's not going to play this evening. So they're still battling through that, which is fine. I think that Syracuse fan also needs to understand that's fine, because you want your team playing your best basketball. You want that to start happening in late February, going into March, going into the ACC tournament, because I think there's enough talent on this Syracuse club that they could make a run in an ACC tournament. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And if they all of a sudden the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together early February, and then it really starts clicking mid-February and carries it into March, and this is a club that can be really, really dangerous. So I think they need to understand that fact. But when you look at Syracuse right now, they don't shoot the three well. At least they haven't been shooting the three well, which is kind of mind-boggling when you consider the type of shooters that they have. I don't know that they've rebounded the ball all that tremendously well. Inside the league, I know that they're dead even as far as opponents' rebounds to their rebounds are concerned. But probably the biggest thing is that I think that Syracuse has got to play better defense. And I think that's just what it comes down to. That's one of the things that I think that maybe you'll see tonight from Clemson. Watch their on-ball defense. Their on-ball defense has been extraordinary so far this year, and hopefully that turns back up again tonight.
Along those lines, we laid out the numbers in terms of this series. Clemson is 6-1 against Syracuse at Littlejohn since the Orange joined the ACC. 5 of those games have been decided by double digits. That's my biggest impression of when Syracuse goes to Clemson in particular. They see a ramped up, in your face type defense that traditionally Syracuse has not handled well from an offensive perspective. You've seen this series up close and personal since Syracuse joined the conference. What is it about Clemson in Littlejohn that makes them so difficult to beat for this Syracuse team?
Well, certainly, when it all started in just years past, the fact that it was Syracuse, and Boeheim was bringing a Syracuse ball club in here that, was traditionally just a kind of a national. They were a national emblem. They were a national power. They've lost some of that, and I think I'm not saying anything that you all don't know. I think that they have lost some, and so they got to find, what's the path back to that. They went 20-10 last year, but here they come in and they struggle so far this year. But I think that's had something to do with it. Is that just the name Syracuse has brought out the best for whatever reason for folks. There's enough Syracuse fans that are here in the area. There'll be more Syracuse fans in the building tonight than most people will realize. I wouldn't be shocked, but also that we see a kind of a sold-out crowd. I think the student body will show out well at Clemson. They'll probably be better than 9,300 that'll be in the building. And when you put 9,300 in Littlejohn, believe me, it's one of the more difficult places for an opponent to come in and win. And and Syracuse, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to do that except for once when they hit a jumper out of the corner right as the buzzer was sounding off to beat Clemson by a point. I think it was 82-81.
Yeah, Tyus Battle on a night when battling the flu and came up with a huge shot to win the game for the Orange. All right, last question for you, Don. I mean, as you look at tonight's matchup, Clemson 15.5-point favorites. I've seen it as a higher number in some places as well. How do you see tonight's game playing itself out?
as you look at it, I don't know. I think 15.5. I think if I was a betting man, and I'm not, I probably would. I think that may be a little bit large number, to be perfectly honest with you. But I will also tell you this. In every ACC game that Clemson has played except one, that was the most recent one when they won in overtime at Pitt the other night, every game's been decided by 10 points or more. The loss was by 10 points to Louisville. Every other game except the Pitt game, Clemson's won by double digits. So there's that going for them, and that probably has influenced the boys in Vegas as well. But I would expect Clemson to prevail. I would kind of be shocked if Clemson doesn't prevail in this one tonight. But they got to be careful because I think there are some things that Syracuse can do well. I think there's some players that can absolutely get hot and carry a team to victory, and they can't let that happen.
All right, Don. We always love having you on. Thanks so much for the insight. Have a great call tonight, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
All right, brother. Appreciate you having me on. Have a great time with the rest of the day. Enjoy your sub-zero temperatures and keep it there.
All right, we will. We'll do, Don.
All right, bud.
All right.
See you, man.
Don Munson, voice of the Clemson Tigers, joining us here on